Hello, and welcome to another exciting edition of Living at Your Highest Quality of Life with the doctors at Inspire Wellness. I'm Dr. Dan Neides.
Dr. Jessica Hutchins. Hi, everybody. Happy spring.
Great to be with you. 216-965-9303 is our phone number. 216-965-9303. Please call us if we can help with medical appointments, medical cannabis, IVs, ozone therapy, sauna, peptide therapy, anything that we can do to help, please let us know. And actually, as a reminder about peptides, that was part of our anniversary. So reminding you that if you are getting peptides from us, if you're interested in getting peptides from us, we will be having our anniversary giveaway. We'll be making that announcement, I believe, it'll be in, if not next week, the following week, and there'll be 3 people that will draw the name out of the hat for those who are receiving peptides January, February, March, and 3 will get 1 month free of their peptide. So excited about that. Again, looking forward to helping you any way that we can. Today, I think, is incredibly important because it's a topic, A, we don't talk about a lot, and B, it affects all of us, and it affects our outcome in ways I think that most people are not focusing. So the topic today is hydration. And I will tell you, as a society, we are incredibly dehydrated. We are distracted by everything other than water. So our coffees, our energy drinks, our teas, alcohol. It's amazing when I talk to people and ask them how much water do they drink. A great percentage, way under consumption, including, wrong hand, this guy over here.
In the past,
but again, want to share the information that we've learned and make sure that we all are focusing on hydration. So before we launch into the keys to understanding what the body requires, I'll just ask you simply, when a patient asks you or you're giving advice on hydration, is there anything that you specifically draw on in terms of that, advice? Like, what would you tell a patient, an adult, in terms of water consumption per day?
Probably just the usual 8 ounces, 8 times a day that we've been told for decades, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. 8 ounce glasses. So 64 ounces, a half a gallon. Now, intuitively, that really never made sense to me, because if I have a patient who, let's say, a man who's 6'5", 280 pounds, and then I have a female, both adults, I have a female who's 5'1", 110 pounds. So 280 versus 110. You're suggesting that they both need 64 ounces of water a day?
Well, what would you suggest?
Okay, so again, that concept is completely flawed. We can throw that out in the garbage with a lot of other recommendations that you hear from the medical establishment. I mean, it shouldn't be surprising. We've talked about, like, one day butter's good, the next day it's bad. Eggs are good, eggs are bad. I mean, we flip-flop on all this.
The food pyramid,
right?
flip-flop.
Absolutely. So here's, kind of the general consensus of where we begin our framework. You take your body weight in pounds and you divide it in half. That's the baseline number of ounces of water your body needs to maintain equilibrium. So we'll take me as the example today.
I know he said baseline, because there could be a lot of reasons why you need more than that.
No. There's more to it than just taking your body weight, cutting it in half, and calling it a day. So as 160 pounds, my water intake theoretically, based on what I just said, would be then 80 ounces a day. But the caveat is that we have behaviors that lose water. So one of the blind spots that I see frequently regarding hydration, let's say hydration and maintaining equilibrium, is, well, how do we account for other liquids that we consume throughout the day? Okay, I think the obvious ones would be caffeinated beverages, and you mentioned alcohol before. So those are really important points to take into consideration. Now, caffeine consumption and alcohol consumption are not created equally. So basically, I think the way that we would view coffee versus beer would be as follows. For every cup of coffee that you consume or caffeinated tea, we would recommend adding 6 to 8 ounces of water to your baseline total. So for me, if I'm drinking 1 cup of coffee and 1 cup of tea, now I have to add 12 ounces to my 80. So now I'm at 92. So I'm at 92 ounces, but I haven't accounted for other losses of water, which include things like exercise or using a sauna, as an example. So for exercise, we would recommend adding roughly 15 ounces per 30 minutes of exercise. So if you're exercising for an hour and you're working up a pretty good sweat, then when you're done, you got to add 30 ounces of water to your baseline
That's
total.
a lot.
Yep. And honestly, it would be the same for the sauna.
Maybe even more, because you sweat more.
But I mean, again, I would recommend about 15 ounces per 30 minutes.
So what does that get you up to already?
So if I'm
What
doing
do you
so it would be 92 plus 15 if I'm doing the sauna on a given day. So that takes me up over 100. So that's 3/4 of a gallon, closer to 110. So I also have to account for vigorous exercise beyond the sauna, and then, of course, later in the evening, if there's alcohol intake, which for the most part, I might have 1 drink per, maybe 1 to 2 drinks per week at this point. So for me, my main consumption of diuretics tends to be more on the caffeine side of it, as opposed to caffeine, coffee or tea, as opposed to alcohol. So I'm actually posing a challenge to all of you. The first thing I would recommend is identify what you're currently doing throughout the day. Because I think you're going to find if you're really not focusing on hydration top of mind, you're probably dehydrated.
Right, for sure.
I mean, I found that, this is the glass that I use for water, and I think I don't fill it all the way to the top. But figure it's about 12 to 14 ounces of water. And there were days where I was drinking 2 to 3 cups of coffee and wouldn't even finish one. So I was leaving the office basically with a net loss of maybe 20 to 30 ounces of water. And then lo and behold, it shouldn't be any shock if all of a sudden my uric acid were to go up.
Or your BUN, right?
Or my
Maybe you have
BUN.
some kidney labs that
Absolutely.
show dehydration. That's probably what
We're going to talk about labs that can point you in the direction of dehydration. So basically for me, I created a challenge within myself. This is my water container. This is 1 gallon, 128
I like
ounces.
the color.
Inspire Wellness Purple. But I felt like I needed this kind of ball and chain to carry around as a way to hold me accountable. Because someone said to me, well, why don't you just get a 64 ounce and just fill that up again? Nope. I want it all in one, and I want to know I know my target, and then I know how am I doing as we go throughout the day. And so, my target most days is going to be somewhere between 100 and 110. So if I can get 3/4 of a gallon of water in, I bet I'm doubling what I was doing on what I considered to be a good day before. So, one of the things we want to point out is the body itself is 70% water. 70%. So what you're really looking at when we look at each other as humans is really a complicated bag of water. So that water needs to be replaced, right? We urinate, we sweat, we defecate, we lose water. And it is critically important to maintain hydration for optimal bodily function. Now, you talked about labs. So there are some indicators that can point me in the direction of dehydration. And I talked about one, which was uric acid. So normally we want to see a uric acid around 6. Mine was up to 8.5. So that was a signal to me that I was dehydrated. The second, you mentioned it, when you get a metabolic panel, we look at BUN and creatinine. So B as in boy, U as in United, N as in Nancy, BUN. And ideally we want to have the BUN, I would say closer to 12 to 15 ideally. If you look at a normal range, I think the LabCorp or Cleveland Clinic Lab accepts up to like 22 to 24. But when I start seeing the BUN at 18 to 20, I have that conversation. Hey, your body is actually headed in the direction of dehydration. Let's talk about what you're doing currently, and then let's put a plan together for what we need to do moving forward. The last lab that can help me is a urinalysis. So we can look at the UA, and based on the specific gravity, I can tell whether a patient is well hydrated or they're dehydrated. So we take the labs and we look at those together with the patient, and then start looking into what their daily habits are in terms of consumption. So the other caveat that I want to mention is food intake. Food can actually account for between 10 and 20% of your daily allowance, right? So where do we get,
Or it could not if you're not eating
right,
any
or
good
not,
foods.
right? So if you're a good eater of fruits and vegetables, that's going to also play a role in keeping the body
And
hydrated.
the fresher the better, for sure. Like he brought home apples from a farm the other day that was in celery that was so full of water, and you can tell sometimes that things sitting on shelves at the grocery
I like
store
to promote
are
it.
so dehydrated.
If you're in Northeast Ohio, New Creations in Chardon, they have a
They had a lot of produce.
They have this little area there with locally grown, no spray produce, and I was very excited to bring home fresh,
very hydrating
produce.
Sure.
So we got apples from them, and we got celery, Brussels sprouts,
broccoli.
So bottom line is we can also look at fruits and vegetables and account for that. So, but for myself, again, I might account 10%. So that's why when I say if I'm hitting my target of 100 ounces, which would be 3/4, right? So if I really need 110, 10% is around 11. So that takes me right back to my 100. So I carry around a gallon. If I can hit 3/4 of it, I'm ecstatic. I try to hit the actual gallon. And then the other thing that I want to mention are electrolytes, because people, listening to this might say, well, I'm going to start drinking so much more water, do I need to add electrolytes? Where I add electrolytes personally is exercise and sauna use. So I use concentrate drops personally as my electrolyte, but if you like LMNT or other electrolyte,
a good sea salt even maybe.
Yep, sea salt. But if you have a good electrolyte powder or liquid that you like to add, fantastic. But please remember, if you're exercising or using a sauna or a steam room, add electrolytes to your water.
Or just any kind of trace minerals. They don't have to say electrolytes. The ones I use are more of trace mineral based, I guess.
And again, there's no harm in if I use concentrates, I might add just 3 or 4 drops to every glass, just because I want to maintain good electrolyte homeostasis or equilibrium. So from that perspective, again, we have some caveats that we want to make sure that we're taking into account.
And I have one more thing that I don't know if you ever think about, but you know how I'm crazy about EMFs and all of that. So there's tons of research articles showing the mechanism that radiation from cell phone towers, Wi-Fi, Apple watches, AirPods, all those things, probably electric cars, all that, it dehydrates your cells. So that's a variable that we didn't have probably when the numbers that you're talking about even were determined. So, everybody is bombarded with all of this stuff. So just keep that in mind. Like, for example, for the teachers or the young kids that are in these middle schools or high schools where everybody has a Chromebook and a cell phone and there's Wi-Fi all over, and they're exhausted when they get home. They have headaches when they get home. Dehydration in kids in school age is huge for on school days, honestly. So, and that could be one of the big reasons why, because they're just being dehydrated all day long by the radiation and the EMF. So, somebody who works in a tech industry or in an office where there's all these bells and whistles and radiation all over, you're going to probably need a little bit of extra water for that, honestly.
Definitely.
But for sure, for school age children, that's a big piece that is missing, that nobody really pushes water in them, and the schools don't, and sometimes they're not even allowed to have their own water, and so that's really important.
All right,
for
so I
kids.
appreciate that. That's awesome. So high level overview once again, just to recap: body weight in pounds divided in half. That's your baseline number of ounces per day that you need to maintain equilibrium for a body that's 70% water. And then when we look at caffeine, we want to, for every cup of caffeinated beverage, we want to add about 6 to 8 ounces on top of our baseline. For every glass of alcohol, it's 10 ounces. And then for exercise or sauna, it's 15 ounces per 30 minutes. So you can then put together what your formula is based on your activity level and your personal intake, and that should get you in the direction of much better hydration. And also keep in mind, you may have signals that you're dehydrated. If your skin is dry, your eyes are dry mouth, like right now, I feel a little bit of dry mouth. So I know, again, I need water.
But you usually need water way before those signals actually happen.
So, listen to what your body is telling you, and this will be a great opportunity for you to absolutely improve your overall health.
And it can help with so many things, not just dry anything. I mean, it really does help your whole body function. It helps detoxify too. That's a big thing, that we need way more water for detoxification. And let me just say that he's obviously a numbers person, so a lot of you guys are too. So you do what he says, try it. But for me, I am so not a numbers person, that what I found worked best for me was initially I could measure how much water. And then I would just get in the habit of, okay, I'll drink this many bottles of water while I'm sitting and working, and this many bottles while I'm at home cooking dinner. And so then I would just know the routine, so it wouldn't be like I have to measure everything every day. So if you guys aren't numbers people and that part was scaring you off, there's definitely other ways to go about it. But at first it is good to measure, just so you have some concept at all of if you're drinking even close to enough.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, before you kind of start on your journey, do a self-assessment and really see where you're at, again, based on how much water you drink and then other beverages that can be dehydrating, and figure out where you're at, but then where you really need to be. And I think you're going to find an overall level of satisfaction of how your body feels just that based on maintaining adequate, or optimal, I should say, optimal hydration. Awesome.
There you go.
Well, thank you guys so much. As a reminder, 216-965-9303. Again, if there's anything that we can do to help, please let us know. And as always, it is your time to thrive.
Let us inspire you.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye. Get those seeds started too. Feel free to comment if anyone has any gardening tips for us as that time. And then we'll see you hopefully in a week or two.
All right, sounds good.
Bye, guys.
Much love.